Welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast, where science and spirit are the focus of creating your most fertile life. You'll find a beautiful balance of grounded science-based topics as well as spiritual talk, and how they are both important for moving toward optimal fertility. Empower yourself along with me. I'm your host, Dr. Maria Rothenberger, a fellow fertility friend, therapist, coach, best-selling author, and spirit baby intuitive. Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility Podcast. This is episode 161, the spiritual connection between step-parents and stepkids. Interesting, yes? This question came in from someone who read my newsletter. I am always looking for podcast episode topics. So if you happen to be on my newsletter, then hit reply when you get an email from me and say, hey, Maria, I was thinking about this topic. What do you think? And I will see about adding it to the list of topics for the podcast. So thank you very much for sending this question in about step-parents. So the question is, very succinctly, are there soul connections between stepmoms and stepkids? And I suppose this could also be a question for stepdads and stepkids, yeah? By the way, if you are looking for a podcast episode where I talk about the uniqueness of being a step-parent while also trying to conceive, I did a podcast episode with Heather Human over at Beat Infertility. It's episode 155. And you would just head over to beatinfertility.co and search for episode 155 or search for step parent. And there's a whole episode on the mental health aspect of this. And of course, that's my other hat, right? That I talk about on this podcast quite frequently. But if you're looking for that kind of content that is not going to be part of this episode, go find beatinfertility.co and listen to episode 155. I talk a lot about the mental health part. I can touch on it a little bit today, but there are clear skills and things to practice within, especially within your relationship when you are a step parent who's also struggling to build your family. For this podcast episode on the Miracles Happen Fertility Center, though, today we are going to be talking about step parenting within the context of spirit baby or soul connection or the other side, spiritual aspect of this. If, by the way, you find the content here useful and interesting and helpful for you, I would be beyond grateful if you would take a moment to leave a star rating, leave a written rating for this podcast on your favorite listening platform. And if you don't have a favorite listening platform, please consider using Podbean. I actually find them to be really efficient and clean. And I looked up their ratings on the Google Play app. Or in the Google Play Store, their ratings are 4.7 stars out of 174,000 ratings or something. And on the Apple Store, they're 4.8 stars with I don't even remember how many, 75,000 ratings or something. Anyway, cool app to use, easy. You can find content really well. And the way that they organize it is clean and efficient. I really like it. So head on over to Podbean. Please start listening to the Miracles Happen Fertility podcast there. And by the way, on Podbean, you can leave messages, you can make comments on episodes, and I read them. So please leave me some comments if you like this podcast in general, but certainly this podcast episode. I really appreciate you. Thank you in advance. Okay, what else is happening in the Miracles Happen Fertility Center? I have low-key soft opened a community. I know that I've alluded to it or talked about it directly on this podcast already, but now you are welcome to head over to miracleshappencommunity.com. It's still soft opening or soft launch of this. It is a free community where we are going to be discussing mind, body, soul stuff all around family building. There is mental health stuff. We do talk about body stuff. We talk about a lot of spiritual stuff. and complementary medicine stuff. So like energy work, crystals, spirit baby stuff. If you are a part of that community, you will be alerted to, and by the way, if you're on my newsletter as well, you will be alerted to live streams and things like this where I'll be doing work for free for you. Live streams that I've done in the past have included little mini readings. It is so much fun to connect with you. I have a great time. That will probably happen once every month or once every other month or something. Those details are still in the works, but you may as well become a member now. It's free, and you'll be alerted to all of those when they come up. So miracleshappencommunity.com. You'll be asked like a single question just to make sure that bots aren't, infiltrating the community. But you'll be talking with a lot of like-minded people, just kind of like the step parenting community within the infertility community is like its own animal, right? It's like its own unique thing. The spiritual community within the infertility community is its own unique thing. And so we do still talk about very sciencey things. You know me. If you've listened to this podcast before, then you know me. I am very grounded left brain sciencey, but also bring in a heavy dose of this spiritual stuff, which I've been doing the last year in 2022 specifically. All right, so head on over to miracleshappencommunity.com and join. It's free. And what the hell, man? Nothing is free in the fertility community, right? Or very few things are free. So may as well. Just check it out. Hang out for a bit with some like-minded folks. Okay, let's get into the topic of the hour, or maybe 20 or 30 minutes. I'm going to give you a very succinct answer to this question. I'm just going to read the question again to make sure I have it right. So this person says, I was thinking of stepkids or the role of a stepmom as a potential topic. Are there soul connections between stepmoms and stepkids? And then they go on to say, becoming a stepmom was kind of jarring to me, not a role I had ever considered at all. Okay, so everybody's story is, by the way, quite different. When you are a step parent, there are so many dynamics within a step parenting situation. From, let's just say you're in a partnership, a hetero couple, you're the wife or the female and your partner is male. Male has had previous children or has had children with a previous relationship that their birth mother or their bio mom has since passed away. You are now married to your husband, and you are now in the mother role, but you don't have you have not been pregnant, carried to term, you haven't adopted your own children, whatever the case may be. This is one example of like myriad examples, like a whole host of big, crazy examples for a step parenting situation. There are folks who very much feel separate and apart from their stepkids. They definitely feel like they are not, in a parenting role at all. They're just kind of observing. There are some people that feel like, no, these are my kids. These are definitely my kids. I'm a bonus parent, I'm an extra parent. I get to be one of their parents. So it runs the gamut, right? So I don't want to imply that I know your specific story if you're a step parent, and I do want to acknowledge that there's so many situations out there around step parenting, but being a step parent within the fertility community or within the family building community is its own unique thing. So I want to acknowledge that. I do, by the way, encourage you to connect with other people who are also step parents within this community. You can even do that at the Miracles Happen community, miracleshappencommunity.com. See if there are other step parents there. There probably are. I know you're not the only one. Okay, so here's a succinct answer though to this question. Are there soul connections between stepmoms and stepkids, or just step parents and stepkids? Yes. Yes, of course. Of course there is. I come from an understanding or an awareness that there's a soul connection between everybody who comes into our life. Everybody. So then that implies step parents and step kids too, right? But there is a uniqueness between step parents and step kids that I find is useful information especially in the context of this question, because this person says that becoming a step parent was kind of jarring, not a role that was ever in their mind, right? And so I think about that, of course, within the context of fertility in the first place, right? Like none of us thought that this would be a thing, right? We thought that we would, conceive, unless you're part of the LGBTQ community, which is unique too. But if you're in a hetero relationship, you expect to go into your bedroom, have sex, and get pregnant, right? That's it. But if you are not thrown into, but if you are invited into a relationship where children already exist, it is not something generally that folks plan for. They don't seek that out, right? And so it's a very unique and must be a well thought out process. Now, on a spiritual level, let's just talk about that. I'm going to talk about this within the context of spirit baby. This is my experience. Okay. In my experience, spirit babies come through for folks who are going to be that baby's parent. Now, does that include step parents? Of course. That can be a parenting role in its own unique way. Okay, here's one of the things, though, that I have not seen come through. Not to say this is impossible, but I have not done spirit baby work where this has happened. I have not had a spirit baby come to me in a session and say, I'm going to come to you, but I'm coming to you through your husband's ex-partner. No spirit baby has ever said that. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it just hasn't happened with my work. Now, I do think that it's important to note that, I'm going to use my own example, that if I'm an adoptive mom. Okay. If I had done spirit baby work before my first son came home, then I may have sensed that he was going to come to me through another. Sometimes this happens with a donor gamete situation. The baby will be able to say, I'm choosing the right body, or I'm choosing the right genetic material or physical material with which to come to you. But I haven't had a situation where they've said specifically, I'm going to come through another parent first, and then you're going to be another parent. So again, it's not impossible, but I haven't had that happen in my own work yet. Okay, but that said, it does not mean that this soul isn't connected to you in some way. In fact, I think that they are. Here's one fun exercise to do. Okay. Oh, let me just side note. In the same way that your partner is connected to you, likely in some way on a soul level, your stepchildren are as well. Okay. That's just another context, another way to look at it. Okay. Here's kind of a fun thing to do. If your stepchildren are young, and I mean below the age of 7, their brainwave activity is still functioning at a theta brainwave state typically, and that is where young kids are able to perceive things that we're not. So they might sense people from the other side, or hear things in some way, or see things in some way, or know things in some way. For example, I think I've talked about this on this podcast before, where I had asked my son, he was 3 at the time, if he remembered being a grown-up before, because this is when I was doing past life work and I was really curious about it, but not totally buying it. And I expected him to be like, what? No, what? He was 3. But what he said instead was, oh yeah, I was a police officer. And don't you remember? I was a police officer and I got shot by my friends. I got shot by my friends by accident, and then I died. He was 3. He was 3 when he told me this. I was driving. He was in the back seat. We had a lot of conversations like this. And I was tripping the F out. Like, what? But, of course, now he's almost 12. He doesn't have any recollection of that. And if I were to ask him that kind of question, he'd be like rolling his eyes going, okay, Mom, this is more of your weird stuff, right? But if you have stepkids that are below the age of 7, it would be interesting to ask them questions like this. I wouldn't lead them in any way, just ask them, just prod their memory. So here's some questions that you can ask. Hey, buddy, do you remember before you were born? Do you remember seeing your mom? Do you remember seeing your dad? And what about me? Did you remember seeing me anywhere? And just ask them. They might come up with something that is completely out of left field you would have never thought of. Who knows? Again, every dynamic is so unique and different. It could be that they saw one trajectory that their biological parents were together, they were going to stay together, or they may have seen another trajectory where their biological parents were going to split up and then you come into the picture. Maybe they even intended for you to come into the picture, right? But usually what's happening here is that the soul connection is some kind of driving you toward growth. Both of you. I believe all interactions with other people are meant to help us grow in some way. But there's a special kind of growth that happens when you are close to people, right? So like the growth that might happen from my interaction with the grocery clerk is different than the growth I might experience with my kids or my parents or my spouse. So I think it's interesting to note what you are learning when you are experiencing a relationship with your stepkids. That's the soul connection. That's the part that is important to know. What are you here to teach me? And what am I here to teach you? There's a great song for those of you who don't know, I am a massive Elvis Presley fan. And believe me, this is coming to a point. There is a point to this. I'm a massive Elvis Presley fan. And if you haven't seen the movie Elvis yet, oh my God, please do. They finally depicted him correctly. He's not just a druggy cheater. He was a beautiful, beautiful soul. Okay, but I digress. The connection to this, the purpose of bringing that up was there's a beautiful song by Elvis's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, where she talks about this. She talks about her having her kids and knowing that they were individually there to teach her something. What are you here to teach me? Is this question, right? That she's constantly curious about. What am I learning today from you? What am I learning? What did I learn last week from you? What did I learn from you when you were born? What did I learn from you when you were, 20, if you have older stepchildren or children in your lives? So I think that that's the most important question. That's the soul connection. And by the way, if you don't find that you can get these answers in your conscious, waking life, you can also do something like hypnosis if you're really curious about it. Particularly for the person who wrote in, if step parenting was jarring to you, like being in that role was jarring to you, those are the experiences that are likely the most important to pay attention to, like infertility. Those are the things that are like, what in the hell? Why am I experiencing this? Because those things promote the greatest growth. The things that really tear us down or that are really bewildering are usually the things that we really need to pay attention to in terms of our spiritual growth. So I invite you to get curious. Get curious about these little folks in your life. What are they teaching you? Maybe you're in a situation where you're a stepmom and the kid's mom is still, in their lives, and the relationships are contentious. Maybe you don't like each other. Maybe, their dad doesn't like his ex either. And there's no communication or very little communication. And what communication there is snarky, What in that situation, particularly with the children, are you meant to learn? What are you meant to learn from that situation? And I gave an example on an earlier podcast with this exact situation where I was talking about how kids, no matter if they are biologically related to you or not, kids will pick up on your vibe, on your energy, and sometimes they don't even know it, but they tend to, especially young ones, they tend to feel that they are the center of the universe. Therefore, any negative feelings that you're experiencing is their fault. It's because of them. And so when you are a step parent, it's easy to sort of remove yourself a little bit and forget that you're still an adult in this kiddo's life. And so to be aware that when you're feeling things, like especially if you're struggling with fertility issues and you're a step parent, the triggers that come from that are immense. They are just so unique and so big. And the kids that are in your life will know that you're feeling something. They won't know what, because it's not maybe necessary to tell them what you're going through, but they will pick up on it, and they will know or they will think that it's their fault, or they did something to cause this in you. So perhaps one of the things that you'll learn in a situation like that, if that resonates with you, is to really remember, this is a skill that I've talked about many times on this podcast, to remember your wise mind. Wise mind is to honor what's happening inside of you emotionally, and then to be able to think through it clearly and behave from that. So in a situation where you're really triggered, maybe again, you're in this contentious relationship with the kid's mom, and she says something like, well, you don't understand. You're not a mom. You're not a mom yet. So you don't know what I'm talking about or what I'm going through. Well, that is really fucking painful, right? So maybe you've been triggered like that. It's very painful inside. You want to emote. You want to erupt in emotion. And your thinking mind is like, wait a minute, I need to take care of this right now. A, it's completely okay that I'm feeling this. B, I need to go offer myself some compassion here. And then the choice for the behavior is to go take a warm bath, or, whatever it is that you need to do to soothe your soul. Maybe that is your spiritual growth. And maybe you're learning that because these kiddos are in your life. If your stepkids weren't there, maybe you'd be like, cursing and yelling and throwing shit and like having a tantrum or something. But now if you're in the presence of these kids, what are you learning from that? How are you growing as a human because of their presence? So I think it's important to look at, and again, specifically for you who wrote in, I'll just say your first name, Megan. For you, Megan, if being a stepmom was jarring and not at all something that you thought would be a part of your life, it's even more important for you to take a look at that and say, all right, I'm going to get curious about what they are here to teach me. And what is this role as stepmom here to teach me? I'm going to take it, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to grow from it. And by the way, when you approach jarring situations in that way, let's just talk about this from a physical level. What happens to your body on a physical level when of course, your body on a physical level. Your body is affected on the physical level, is it not? I mean, your energy is affected too, but what physically changes when you come to a situation with open curiosity rather than a WTF attitude or pushing it away or getting anxious or whatever other negative emotions you might feel? What happens when you come and approach something from an open curiosity, you're in a state of relative ease and calm. There might still be some anxiety, and like the unknown is usually what starts the anxiety around that. The unknown, fear of the unknown. But there's more of a calming undercurrent that all is well. All is exactly as it should be. I'm just getting curious about what I need to learn or pull in from this situation. And so what happens, your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in a little bit more, and that is excellent for your fertility, because when your other nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, is in play, that is when digestion becomes an issue, fertility organs become an issue, because those are non-essential. When your sympathetic nervous system is engaged, that is like, I'm running from a lion. I have no need to procreate right now. But when you are in parasympathetic nervous state, then your body is like, okay, we're fine. Time to trying to grow this family, and everything becomes a little bit healthier. So not to say that you can't ever have stress again in your life. It's chronic stress that we want to avoid. Chronic elevated stress is detrimental to fertility. So create moments of peace, create moments of ease, and create moments of open curiosity. Why is this role of stepmom in my life right now? Okay, I hope that is helpful. The short answer is yes, there is a soul connection, and your duty or your next move perhaps is to discover and to be open to why. Why is this role important for my spiritual growth? And what connection do I have with my individual stepkids, if there's more than one, in terms of my spiritual growth? And what am I here to teach them? Maybe I have had a life experience that they need to learn from and grow from. Maybe I have some skill that they need to learn from and grow from that their parents don't. And so it's this open curiosity and an ongoing look at what this connection is. But I do encourage you to soften and be open to it, because it's here anyway, right? So may as well invite it in and learn and grow from it. Okay, thank you so much for that question. I think it's an important one. And if anybody listening has a specific step parenting question that you would like me to answer, I'm happy to. Just email me at info@drmariarothenberger.com. I will get back to you. It might be a little bit, but I do answer all of my emails personally. So shoot me an email. Okay. Don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite listening platform for today's podcast episode, or the whole podcast in general. And if you are listening on YouTube at Miracles Happen Fertility Center, please hit like and subscribe so you'll never miss another podcast episode again. I wish you so much wellness on your step parenting and fertility journey, and may you find peace, and may you know and get curious about what your role is in these little kids' lives and what their role is in your life. May you find ultimate peace with it. And until next time, my friend, be well.